그래서 저 한번 보여서 그래. 텐데도.
Dorje Dorje Delo Naroda Mela Juje Gambo Ba Andeza Yeza Ganjen Garma Ba Tiye Junji Jubanza Rada Zarzan Bardin Romazo Salan Zadya Manibe Nyamen Rongo Tabo Kajila Zorwan de Zogajula Jeban Zena Namdara Zenjilo Shenlo Ganje Gambar Zombaji Senara Ganla Jayime Badan Sende Jube Ganjela Ninga Yemba Me Barazengelo Yemi Ganjengo Zombaji Menga Dergo Jebela Mala Janda Zorwa Debe Ganjela Mugajewar Yeme Ganjeng Yerzombayi Kanyara Dobe Ngosomade Majye De Ganjobe Ganjela Gonzalo Dan Ravara Zengelo Nando Ngo Juga Zomba Jaya Mayen Jaya Jarwa Naroban Jarve Ganje Korande Yerme Dobar Zengelo Jewa Ganda Yanda Lamada Dharme Juje Barla Lon Juje Sadan Lamje Yonde Razone Dorje Jange Gomba Nyordo Yo.
So we went through quite a bit of material this morning. So if you'd like to ask questions, people here or people from the webcast.
Huh?
Okay.
Right, sorry, I've just got to get to my email. Can you hold this?
Is it hotter in the summer or the city?
What? That's a joke about false comparisons. David. No, he wants me to. This is my job. I'm a translator. This is what I do. You got to say it. I got to translate. The ngone dezen noya ke Paris. The yakala zawa yenam dongja zawa yenam. The ngone de kap kakarwa yaka de dutsures dongja de sachares. the trupa ke peres.
Yeah.
I was just filling in while she got the email. Does anybody else have a question before she
Oh
gets
dear.
Yeah, over here. Yeah.
Kathy, save us.
Hello. I have a question that relates a little bit to this morning about how that we really need to practice diligently and take our practice outside the shrine room in order to really change our minds and make progress. So I need some clarification because I've also, in the liturgies and teachings, that we can be liberated just by seeing Guru Rinpoche's crown. And does that mean literally we had to be where Guru Rinpoche was teaching and see his actual crown when it was on his head? Or do we have to have a visualization of a clear vision of the crown? Or do we need to look at a rupa or a tanka with the crown?
Pema tongro chemo de tongwa tsanji drowa res. De so ke tsorwa tsane nation de Guru Rinpoche ke Chupanam de Usha de Jawa tsanji drowa sava de kareres.
Tate kora chetange pema thondorte thongwa tamge trawa singente tangbon thongwe kap thang tatu thwarwe kapte koranta nang yeg ngola dondore tatenda wo te mboyore thondor singenda wo thudor singenda wo tador singenda wo nyongdor singenda wo tende mboyore tate nyongwa kora thongwa tamge trawa yana te lehla wonduwa and Taji Gangatagina, they look into us. They double money. That's so Sosuge, Tepata Mugula Ralegate. Kanza, Tepata Mugud Dembe Kanza in, then Bemantondo de Tom Sosuge Tella, Yimshi Bak Tepa Chapertin Javaina, Tella Dembe Getini, Kora, Chinapte, Kora Sosuge Symbiote Huguiori. Shopa tella tene tatu toala tesam mapanda was in the region. Ta kanza sosi jevo tepa kaya making for Toma teke on the trouble, someone jagade de Kadu tonda voting if I'm out of it. That's the end of it.
You know, the Pema Tondol de that the Pacha Ladru ke train on the Sompate, so ke Terchen Ushake Zolo Tum Mayamba de la Songo.
Bemantondo Saman
Samala Yana that the Chipamara, Pema Tondo Gurek Samandra. The crown of which you're speaking is called the lotus crown, which liberates through being seen. And it does not have to be the one that is worn by Guru Rinpoche when he is wearing that. It is any form of this particular crown, which is commonly worn by was worn by Terchen Barway Dorje, is worn by his rebirths, and is worn by other lineage holders of similar rank. What is meant by which liberates through being seen means that seeing it will cause future liberation. It doesn't mean that at the moment you see it, you immediately achieve liberation. The liberation through being seen is one of 6 modes of similar liberation. Liberation through being seen, liberation through being heard, liberation through being recollected, liberation through being worn, liberation through being eaten, and the other one. I forget what the other one is. There's 6 of them anyway. If I didn't list 6, then there's one missing. Liberation through touch. Okay, so anyway, and in all cases, the process is similar. What it means is that the basis for that individual's future liberation is created. Now, the question arises, what is the difference between the effect of seeing the lotus crown, which liberates through being seen, on someone who feels tremendous faith and devotion, and on someone who is neutral, who just happens to be in the right place at the right time to see it? If someone sees it and feels great faith and devotion, then blessings will enter them at that time, which will ensure their future liberation. If someone sees it but doesn't feel faith and devotion, then the seed of their future liberation is still planted, but it is uncertain how they will achieve that liberation.
Thank you. I thought it seemed a little bit too easy to just look at a crown and be liberated.
The Tongwat Samje Lamsang Dorje de Yeshe Ma Song.
That's it.
Yeah.
Want me to hold it for you?
Yeah, as you say, that would be too easy.
All right, so here's one question, but this is from yesterday. So she says this morning, which means yesterday morning, there was mention that it is the natural tendency of the disciple to be born near the guru. Does that apply only to disciples with specific levels of realization? Or does it apply to all disciples, and how does aspiration factor into this?
Okay. Kasong ge data de Chuji Sunam Songpo Dang de Chungmase Lodro Renshin Nampani ge Pensun la Jawa Zapo Yempa ge Susunbe ge Shwala Pesha Payana Jutsen Chik de Telo ge Namtro Dang Chikshu de Naro ge Namtro Yempa ge Wange Dene Sera Mompo de Jawa Mepa ge Nyamdo de Chewa Lama Dawe Ores. De dawo ke lalo ke jawa samo de pakbe ganza telo naro nashin kona la yana ngatso susu chewo ke lo matso la yang dujun de lama ke chela chewa langwa la sopa ke de dawo ke dawo yorepe.
Malam hyuk chechong chabari wasi. Mato chike teni kora deyu samala yung. Koran penna da ngaran sanda wudde chene cha da ta jawang kama pa da chewo samba mambo che thongsa pela thongwa de sa pela sawa de yena ya rangin ke ngaran so cho ka sa kan je de ki dowa pe de ki dowa ton to ran hyo ke koran malam teb sombe teni koran sonam ke tab la tene je yo de ma to tiga sa extended out ta yo ma de in that one shook chamber thing here. Then Jake Jawa Mangol and Deva Yonkin Dawachina, Teta Bukitanya Yongri. Then Malam Dimbo Sabai and Dimbo Sabadi, Tama Yanaya, Shan Jason Topic cook up the 10 Yongri, the law melody.
It depends primarily on the strength of aspiration. If someone makes very, very strong, forceful aspirations to be inseparable from their guru in every lifetime, then the result of that will be that they will be, throughout their life, in close proximity to their guru. If they make intermediately strong aspiration, then they will have less access, but some access. And if they make a weak aspiration, then they will at least have the opportunity to see the face and hear the voice of their guru's rebirth. And no encounter with such a holy being actually occurs by accident. For example, the fact that although he was born in Tibet, both the 16th and 17th Joan Karmapas have been seen all over the world and been encountered by many different beings, these encounters are not accidental. They are through the force of such aspirations.
Okay, so, and here's the next question. I've had an extreme amount of unhappiness in this lifetime, and because of that, I've decided that I can never attain any happiness within samsara. Since this decision comes partially from emotional negativity, is it still a valid decision?
The tewa po de tse de la dopo mombo nyomares. Tse de ke dunga la tane korwa nyumpo mepa yempa takchu jonsons. Da number chikta na yapores. Ngijong ke lode yapores. In a number chikta na tse de ge tse de la chowa jongwa dunga mompo jongwa ki chenji yembala chikshina tempo mares kandaredos.
Tate mege lutin tapa tela guba Gyamtso shepherd papa to te yori. Pena lutin yanda la in le sapa quando sono tela ten tene lutin tela deva chibo chanya mato jege tene dohar tan menjong tende yori slag lutao. Tawre somayena tene chur tembek to gap down. Tene chur dubek to gap down yongi yamaris. Konatile the dozo part do sarbi chitawanda yori. Make lutin tella devata dohartin demayo. Say yabala tene chur dubek ko gap ten shepherd papa. Chur dubek ten shepherd papa in somewhere give centuries. Kadere senna, king yamba gevkumasi. King yamba te majona, Gyawasi hita, Tento Gamaris, Chipta Chon, Slatum Jacob Rea, Gyamtso, Chita Chon, Tam Martimares. Tangana Sola, Dema, Davochi Yodu, Chipo, Devo, Lu Devo, Sam Devo, Yava Yanayang, lower the Tonhachin Tail to take it in so. King saw you on the capsule attending, gave a good massive paint top of yours. Top of yard at the Inayan, Tella, Tempo Yomaris, Pen and Young get Pena Lama Jambonal, gets a young 2 young chicks and soon was young chick and young 2. But then the capsule at the corner, King Yambaki, calling on the capsule. Then pa machi bachen tela ten tan tu so ba yin jeng chong capsula ta kora chut kora ten jeng de mele de so capsula ya chu ji tan de no ba yin na ten ha chang ge jeng de pen do chen ma de jeng chong tela ten ne te pa machi pa la chu du so ba chi chong yin on a tanic, king but take it in, give a good maso, give a good man ten, so sucking on a tree answer, but top to but it and should you.
The special advantage of being born human is that the balance of misery and happiness in the human experience is ideal for spiritual development. There are species such as the gods or devas who are so uniformly happy during their lives that they are unmotivated to improve their spiritual state. They have no motivation to engage in spiritual practice. So what you are describing is a situation where the suffering of being human has inspired renunciation, or the desire for freedom from samsara. And this is what is meant by the saying, adversity inspires goodness. Adversity encourages us, or can encourage us, to engage in good deeds. Sometimes when we are too happy and comfortable, we forget why we should practice, or why we should engage in virtue. And at those times, sometimes, adversity, suffering, can remind us. Nevertheless, we still face the problem of instability, which is that when we become miserable, we are inspired to improve ourselves. But then when we stop being miserable, we forget about the need for improvement and return to a state of comfortable idleness. And this is what Jungwe Lodro Tai was referring to when in his Calling to the Gurus from Afar, he wrote, I repeatedly set about good deeds and repeatedly stopped them. So what we want is, while it's necessary that our desire for freedom from samsara start with something unpleasant to remind us of it, we have to stabilize that desire for freedom so that it becomes independent of changing circumstances, and so that we can be unceasingly diligent regardless of whether we are suffering or not.
Is there anyone else? I've got another question, but I don't want to. Okay. So, given that the songs of Barway Dorje were written for advanced students and I'm only a beginner, how much emphasis should I put on practicing pure perception instead of simply trying to sustain naked awareness?
Tata te Rinpoche sompa nanshin do sungko te tso mongchewa ke Lama te tsam Gyamtso zambo yoken so ge ngola sombares. Tendo tene te sompa ke nyamlen de tso rikba chenla pupa dang. Te nanshin go cherem ge kone ta nang zambo chawala sopa ke. Nyamlen tombo ge rempa dawa yores. Ngatso ledam popa ke kaso de nana yapa ke ngatso la nyamsulen lamsong de nyamsulen upa kandang kanyor.
다 공원에 컴펠 땅야 티다 같은 거래. 다 저당게 코란티나나 고베키 추지 마도 제게 다 추세나야로 담가 세나야로 모토 세나야로 고바치 송요는 마도 마고 나오 다지야 되나 요마리. 얘는 되네 가가 사지 소수기 세나 다 요점부터 샘점부터 나오고 소소라 라네게 인도 값을다 코나 개체효데 이 로만도 와디 같이 모르겠어 단데다페 되니 냠네 쳔부게 간다로 송야와데 인도인데 나와 당연히 용거 말이 삼만다 뭐지 매워체 되니 되게 토텔라 되니 소소게 손놈다 레다 대파 먹을라 땜베게 가세 토섬다 뭐지 냠네서 된 가세 힘 맞춰 반다 보이나다 대비하고 텐데나네 베히도 로비온서 된 마음 빨랐다 소리 견돌라 냠슬네 또베고 말람 잡 텐데 제나 만들고 산는 거 말이
Well, the point is to improve or progress continuously beyond wherever you are right now. And all of the things, all of the aspects or elements of Dharma that are presented in these songs are necessary. It's not that any one of us can afford to totally ignore any aspect of these teachings. Whether you call them Dharma teachings, instructions, advice, guidance, or pointing out instruction, the various issues that they deal with and the various aspects of spiritual development that they describe and encourage are all relevant to all of us. At the same time, we are all individuals, and therefore we are all slightly different, which means that it's not just a question of, are you advanced enough to use such and such instruction yet? It's not that linear. It's more individual. Any individual will find that there are certain aspects of certain instructions that they can understand and readily use, and that at that time there are other aspects that for whatever reason they cannot readily understand and put into use. What's most important is that while we must of necessity respect our own individual needs and where we are, we must also never disregard any aspect of the teachings through self-denigration. By which I mean, if we overstress the fact that indeed these songs were written for what we would call advanced practitioners, if we overstress that, we're giving ourselves an excuse not to work too hard. We say, well, I can't possibly understand that. That's written for somebody who is much more advanced than I am. I'm unworthy of it. That's not right either. Because regardless of your level of prior practice, there will be aspects of these teachings that you connect with right now and that will spur your practice. So the solution to this is to put into practice whatever you can, whatever works for you, whatever you find yourself understanding and connecting with right now. Practice as much as you can with faith and devotion, and make the aspiration to be able to, in the future, practice those aspects that you either cannot implement now or cannot understand now.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to, there's 3 parts to this question, but I'll ask each one individually.
Please.
And then go to the next one. In the song on page 106, Rinpoche said that we should learn to imagine that the appearance we see are really Buddhas, water, air, fire. I don't understand how to do this. I don't know what the various Buddhas look like when I look at something outside. I look at something outside. I see a combination of water, air, etc. Could you please give me more guidance on how to do the imagination?
Data de digidro la chasumdos. Dambo de sungo de na sompares. Da pombo nga jawa ringa dang. Jongwa nga de yung nga res. Din nga so de iembala de iempa shego dos. De sha la kanda go dos. Pena ngaranga de chi no ji jongwa shi la tana. De ne de chu tonga do, sa tonga do, me tonga do, long sorga do. You know, that's all de yum nga ge rangshin de gom shegamandos. Yum nga ge kozu kanda yapa dang. De gomso yang shegamandos.
Tate kora nekap ngarang thola te yori. Penna sanje chomnen deke. Demba song yung kap thola. Kundam Gudemba Tang, Kundab Gudemba, and the song was. Tang Aranson, true debit capsula, Kundab Gudembe, Nan Yori. Take you the capsula, the sarin, the children, the lonely, the medicine, Tomati Yori. Tomati Yori, or tea, Koran, nor somebody, touch on somebody, Tetan, Mandic Padi. That take Koran young and Tongo Grace and Simba Gajari Matun Monetanic that Samlan Yamu Ranging Temne also the social the same George Epic Gajan Mali.Tain the capsula Kondop Tatola Kondop K Dembasomali that Dylan Jo Chapakayama Niga Kayamando. That Niga Kayamando te and I am Koran. Koran ke ranking ke ta thon teng ki yori kondab demba se on the capsule thonda mai ba ja ma ta chwari kondab ke ngola ta trupe ke ngola demba da wo ngala to thamari ena ya kondab demba singe te hlo ki de kande chen hlo ko yori sena thon thampe demba te ngon de chura yena kondab demba te ta kora ranking ki Koran pa the Koran then sounded and do your Matoya Koran Kundab Demba the pa you the Tonam Demba Doko in our Tinekan your Marite ranking a Koran then sounded and Koran Ranchuk and do your days. Tate Dor Chapala on a side your lam the bacon the mixture sonum so Mimi shake it so send a mamboy song the water and do the bacon Sosu ke samba tang nupal tempe ke tene chen yamne zo chancho ke sem je slop jong zo tende zo yena rangi ke tene sem nan joba kone komel tel ke de chida ke chapal chamo yoma.
The point is that the way things appear to us is not the way things are. The way things appear to us is temporary and it is conditional. It is temporary in that it will only last as long as we are deluded, and it is conditional in that the mode of appearances that we experience in our present state, and you're not alone, we all have this issue, is conditional upon our delusion. Without delusion, we would not see things this way, we would see them as they are. And this is why the Buddha taught what we call the two truths. These are absolute truth, which is how things appear to an undiluted cognition, and relative truth, which is how things appear to a diluted cognition. Now, as you mentioned in your question, we, all of us, when we look at water, we see water, not mamaki. When we look at earth, we see earth and not Buddha Lochana, and so on. We've never seen mamaki or Buddha Lochana or Pandaravasini or Samayatara, so we have no idea what they look like. And if we're honest, we don't see them. That's not what we see. We see water and earth and so on. So it's not being said here, you are no longer allowed to see water as water. You have to see it as something else. To say, you are no longer allowed to see water as water and earth as earth. You must see these things as in the pure forms of female Buddhas, would be pointlessly forceful and extremely bossy. That's not what's being said here. What's being said is, we simply need to keep in mind that relative truth is only relative truth and not absolute truth. And we need to remember that relative truth is deceptive. We call it truth because it has a contextual consistency or validity, but it has no uncontextual truth or reality. So therefore, we call it relative or even spurious truth is another translation. Now, when absolute truth is revealed, then there will no longer be any difference between the way things appear and the way they really are. That is to say, there will no longer, for that person, be two separate truths. What appears is what there is. We are in the process of working toward that. So we just need to remember that that is where we are headed, and accept the fact that we do experience relative truth now, not absolute truth. So we practice Dharma, generate bodhicitta, study, and gradually we change. And as we change, our mode of projection on appearances will gradually improve and then disappear. What's the second part?
I'm going to somebody else's question now because it's similar but different to that question. And then I'll go back.
That's a Yogi Berraism.
Well, I can't help myself.
Yes. No.
Regarding the instruction to view all appearances as the guru, all sound as mantra, etc., how do we apply that instruction if we are in close relationship with a person who has problems with addictions and substance abuse?
It's not really funny though. It's the nawa tamche lama ke kudang drakpa tamche lama songa ngachi ropa tagana so ke nyedra lam de ropo chit la changa mendopo ke langsho dokpo yana den hi galga mare pes kanda konla de tawa kanda sha ko to
Ta tela o nganange ngoshe ina yanda trobo ina nda tande addiction re thinking meri tande kora one tande hlang ri samkhen da otne samgo mdo ta tela kare gogdo sena nyingi tande la kora semjur la tene de kam de worship himbo yori de sanje ke himbo cheri ena ya mari pala tene prana nyomo yori nyomo na tene addiction yori tate yoga te hingi samatavu ke goni chancho ke semche ne roba che tunghenda wa ina ya pore tene te ke pengri paro pola ya pengri roba che wa te ke pengri rana ya pengri chancho ke sem senken de jangdu jangwe yorje yone tene chancho ke sem de je gogre mato che ge te mena ya chancho ke semche je bala te kale kapo yori.
Well, it would not be said in that situation that you should try to see the addictive behavior of your friend or relative as the behavior of a deity or the behavior of your guru. What you need to remember is that the nature of the addict's mind is Buddha nature, just like yours. But that because they don't see the nature of their own mind, because of ignorance, they have kleshas. And because of their particular mix of kleshas, they have addiction. And that should lead to empathy for them, an attitude of bodhicitta and compassion, which will be helpful to you in dealing with them and will make it more likely that you are able to be helpful to them.
Going back to question number 2. I have a friend who several years ago took refuge. He does meditation practice once a week, at least the Chenrezi sadhana. He does not have a root guru and has said neither that he doesn't. He has said either that he doesn't feel the urge to see or need to have a root guru. I'm not sure if he has the stance because of lack of understanding or the necessity for having a root guru, as Rinpoche has taught us in the several of the web streaming. Shall I tell him some of the things I've learned from Rinpoche, or say nothing until he has a strong desire to find a root guru?
Tua po deke ngo shepa chik lokashe ngo la chamru don bozong. Ne hapto rere la de za re la chutso de done chenren se ke gomde dongi ore. De ma to de nyamlen cheda yo mare. De ne zawe lama sava de gogumendose. Korang la de gogumendose. Da de na na sompa ke ta de yena Che Gyamtso lampa la zawe lama inji minji gopa ke tsu mompo song doa. De drawa po degi paropo de la lapna gajere kandare.
다들 말람 느껴지지.
Lasa.
소소 게레데 소소라라데. 레서 섬지 미잡데. 아니 탐진 쳔바 코넨지 되는 성어를 된제반 꾸진데 탐진 쳔바 코넨지. 다 레그 소스ingen 때라 테네 넘반타서 봐요리. 테 요드 갑슬라 레 테단 차라 강자 소소라 가저요. 나한테 책임이 내가 먹고 산 거니 가져요. 제인데 코나 레게 가져요. 그 강자직 셔라 코나 게로 랩톱 같은 개발 파파리. 돈다 레디 나니 께네세 레데 차 레데는 로베가 대양 안에 개발 파파 손남비. 암만에 빼면 혼 레레게 페용텔라 직당 근데 뺨마세 무슨 무슨 말이 제가 잠지게 코란한데 제가 잠지 코란 샘나 형 텔레 로스 튜브 라마 더바 메바이나 근데 다 짠네 텔라 주고 휴주요 말이 코란 카레 챵바텔라 가베 이란소 야보레 오늘 단에 그 돈다리 나는 저랑 넌 통계야 페용 쳔보레 센네 야 About the Masona Pu, Kuko the Masona Zerni Yana, tell a tembic Koran Gelo the Kona Combat and Roa Yana, then the Pendo Chambore. They got hung at the
You should not tell that person that they need a root guru. Because each and every one of us has individual karma. And the predispositions within us that are part of our karma and the karma that we carry around in general are invisible to ordinary beings. They're only visible to a Buddha. So when we try to mess with that, we are messing with something that we can't see, let alone understand. Especially since we, each of us, take a great deal of pride in our unique karmic mess. We defend our unique karmic mess and limitations with real pride and arrogance, such as when we think, well, I don't need a root guru, and so on. But we cannot be argued out of that. We cannot be coerced or judged out of that. Now consider what your friend is doing. Once a week, they do the Chenrezig practice. That's amazing. That's wonderful. If you doubt that, read about the benefits of even a single repetition of the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. If they have the feeling that that is enough, that's a sufficient degree of involvement, sufficient amount of practice, and they don't need a particular personal teacher, then you should rejoice in that. Say to them, what you're doing is wonderful. Encourage them. And really, yourself, rejoice in it. Rather than criticizing them for not doing more, you should respect and rejoice in what they're doing. Okay.
And I didn't realize the second one is very similar to this. So,
That was the second one.
no, sorry, so the third one. So for any beginner practitioner who does not have a root guru, are there any of the prayers mentioning the guru helpful to them to say with maybe the person thinking of a Buddhist teacher?
Okay.
They have seen and feel a connection.
Da chö Gyamtso lengen yempala ledang popa yempala mixa ke zawe lama mixa wa tsani mena dene lama ke soldep dan dezo ke don la karisam lo tongo dos de zen chepa ke lama yapoche la shona de kanrar
다 산제 생각 노란다고 되니 내 남나 코나 터러로 와 또 때문에 팽그리 봐 요새 남아있나 남미게 코나 때 코나 때문에 팽 뭐래 단 이게 생각이야
if he has particular predisposition toward devotion for one, reciting the Buddha's name mantra, or if, although them their root guru, they have a faith in a particular teacher, then they could certainly pray to that teacher as well. But if they don't have any particular faith in any particular teacher, then the most beneficial thing would be for them to pray to the Buddha or Amitabha or Chenrezig.
And I don't have any more questions from him.
Yes.
This is relates to the song on 106, practicing throughout the night. So for a period of time, I've been, sleeping with mala and doing mantras. And lately, I've been inclined not to close my home shrine. It's in my bedroom. Is it okay to keep it open? Sometimes, I just add water to the bowls and relight a candle and let it burn. And
You mean while you go to sleep?
yeah, and then maybe change it in the morning, or sometimes in the morning I'll just refresh it again, a little water and new candle and practice, and then maybe after a couple of days change water. Is that okay, or should?
Data de nanla de chishamyore, de la de dunsa pogios. De samsam gomo ne de dunsa de tompa shagamares, de gomo manye gona chu tadon yang tes logiores, kaso getso logiores. De ne chime de yang kaso getso de yang bagiores. De senkang de rang de chu de dunsa nang de chok, de me de tong de chok. De ni ngadro la latsuna samsam de yang mapo tadon yang chu la kaso sam pona drigereves. De drigereves.
다음 또 소설하래. 오늘 타는 게 손남 그소 생기더라. 되게 나네 장다 단단하라서 한자 소지 제부 값을라. 민미 이게 소텔라 대세가래 가보요. 대인도 다 미게 손남 그소 생기데 사야데 답이 휴긴 못한게요. 대인도 값을라 때네 미게 손남 그소 sinking the side. Then the door de Sosuke that Sondu la days on a tane Sondu Yapo Yonki make your son so that Yapo Sago something comes in. Then Kora Shoki Yapu. Then Gonda Matu Duntat and the Tamaso. Then they Cheba Yena on a tane George Patty at the Shag song at that period, the Chu Young but put some near Pema, because in his son Chambon dog the poo. Tani told him no song, so on it. And the Jalena, then they cook up your mother song. 10 hours, and got it 10 day orders. That could capture load the 10 day orders. Got it, Lena. Kora don't say ya poo, you might take up. Ma show mato te tajikapa ma pabne kita tere remo je ton ni na phu mato remo ni ton tende te don sa remo ton sama de kambo kamja le no te yo le ta chora ya sho te ya khasab de yo le ta te ya bo re te na ya te taji lelo chewa ta lelo ndiwanda bo me de what
Okay.
na ta chara na sa sam nam da gen du she ko da yin sen me la go gen do ma yo na pe ya bo re
It depends on you. It depends on why you're doing that way. Because we make offerings, we set out offerings to accumulate merit. As beginners, we have a great difficulty with practicing the non-conceptual accumulation of wisdom. And therefore, we have no choice but to principally practice the conceptual accumulation of merit. The conceptual accumulation of merit depends principally on effort, diligence, for its effectiveness. So every time we take a shortcut, do something that makes it easier or less inconvenient, less trouble, we are actually depriving ourselves of merit. And this is why the tradition is that you fill the bowls with water in the morning, and then you empty and dry them in the evening. And this was extolled by Lord Atisha when he came to Tibet and discovered that Tibetan water is really clean, which was not the case in where he was coming from. And he said, you Tibetans have a fantastic opportunity to accumulate merit with great convenience simply by offering water. In other words, the effort of filling and emptying 7 water bowls a day is already considered a major concession to easiness. Nevertheless, people do what you describe, Rinpoche said. And sometimes the people do it by rings. In other words, if you let the bowls stay overnight, then eventually the evaporation, the water will start to evaporate. And then you'll get a ring at a certain level, 1 day's level of evaporation. And then if you let it go another day, it'll evaporate down, you get a second ring, and then a third one, and so on. And eventually, if you keep it up long enough, they will evaporate entirely, and the inside of the bowl will be a series of, depending upon the hardness or softness of the water you use, a series of rings formed by mineral deposits. I suppose Rinpoche said that what you're doing is not quite as bad as that, because you're at least performing a token renewal. You're at least, you're offering the stale water, but you're also adding a little bit of fresh water to it. So I would make a distinction between the ring evaporation method and what you're doing. I would say that one is terrible laziness and the other one is mediocre laziness. So, on the other hand, your laziness is slightly ameliorated by the fact that you want to keep a lamp burning all night. That's good. But be careful of fire. Especially if you're not keeping enough water to put it out.
Very good. Okay. Yeah.
Just gotta change the SD card.
I'm not saying anything.
You just did say something.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if it's recorded or not. That's okay. Okay, so like many of your students, I've spent quite a bit of time in formal practice over the years. However, there's always a nagging feeling of voice telling me I can always do more, either in quantity or quality of practice or in service to the Sangha. Is this an asset or an obstacle in disguise? And if the latter, how should I handle it? Thank you.
Rinpoche ke shalo mongcho nanjing ke drewa po de kansam ke tunji nyamlen la kangcho tu songi ores. Sondru katsu tsamna yang dadong yang de tetsom yores de le sondru lakpo gogidos de le tun mangwam tun ringwam de ne tingazin salwam de nyamlen gompel de injiminji tong gogidos. Samlo de number chiktana gewage samlo, sondroge samlo yapores. Number chiktana de tetsom dawo rangla tetsom zawa daware de kandaredo.
Tate kyatanga ta kone converto tango gendo sambeke domba yobate kam sege yapore. Kam sege yapore te yena soso la trim dawo tanya yoma. One tane ke chik sem lopu ke ngane kaga saji soso ke tubun dona te samjegi tene kone konverten bekin no dosum yapor.
Well, the wish to increase and improve upon one's formal practice is good, because it is an aspiration to increasing goodness. But you don't want to let it become the imposing of a sentence on yourself, imprisoning yourself within some kind of a grid of ideas of what your practice should be. So the balance is to allow the idea of increase and improvement to flourish, but to be relaxed about it and not uptight. They're all afraid because of the way we jumped in. Any other cute or funny questions?
Yeah.
That's a brave man. That's a brave man.
Very good.
Can you talk more about continuum? It's like there's this mind here that is Jeff, and it's got crazy long hair now and not shaving, but I don't take that when I die. I leave all that behind, and so the continuum that goes. When do you leave this identity, and is there any of this identity that moves forward?
The gangza ke semji ju de la, data ngazo ke tse de la, so ke ming dang, so ke lupo ke namba dang, so ke drense de sola de ngarang yin ke samba yores. So ni shiwe kapsa yana de so chatsangwa tordo gres. Lupo dang, ming dang, de mongcho de tordo gres. Se dile se chima la droya de katsures. Sem ki jun de la de ngoma ke doctor zonwa ke bakcha kam jun raw tets negire kandare do.
Ta semne leji jesndo sonare. Tene jadange ta lunde ngalanso yulu shata sinke to yowate. No minke lucene sonare, number member lu. Te in the capsula lunde tene choranga sederi. Kora shagori. Yena sam tongbatela higayomari. The medic capsula, lutin deg capsula, le kare sayowa yena dig jesnori. Le gava shukya sayona. Geva ki yes dode, deba shukya sayona, deba yes dode, there can and some Koran doggeries, then don't take loose languages. Lul Lambek come da way in a tapena, Pado Todoni, Somba Datola, Takora Pena, Kora He Yomba Capsula, Ta Kora. Cancer of Pajuk neck up Dawachilla in a young. Ta Kana Kansam Padula. Then it Tande Sosu looking number Dawachi Shagri Mato. Chat someone torso on Dawakan, never down dog money. Penna, Wambo, Kunzang, Tome, Jo. Legends on the shoulder dance and so on. Tandika Sosuke. Kora wangbo masangwe kanza dawachi yinaya, ti kala wangbo yongsoba tang dawachi la yungri.
De yichilu de.
Yegilu tiri, yegilu le wangbo konsa tome jo. Laji zonto shoda di mido tene no tizawa na jikson. Te yendo kapsula teke lu te shani, ta yeke lu tela, zimbatela tene, tene che ngamtrada, jingnanda, kapgoada, trugoada, mambochikita, patu tegna kande sombikita, jumtenda watakanga, tela tene yungi yore. Tene rembe hiendo lata, Egypti shegun tala, doba kapsula, tene soso kana jewa lengi yona yata, teke zogna wotang. Ta tela tene hlali dam jewi yona tene zog te bata tana dogata ta tela chakwe namba ta o tene ta te na yenge nyawa la sobale jegi yona ta sosu ke ta khane jele jegi yona ya ta tenzu ke meto namba da wa shane tela maga namba da wa ta tene jegi to ne tene kora lo lengi yode nyomo singente ta kora semte tato sang maje ke padola tene nyomote ta tar tagi yore choko longo toko songo kokap yo sonore pado tambo nyeba sumbala hena ya tene rembe gen so du yum kapsula teken to shete leb yore
Jishana de number member lodan, Bardor lodan, Yichu logi, Chepa sum, Lama. Jishana pensare. Well, as came up yesterday, this term continuum refers to the mind. And what happens to the mind after death is that it follows your karma, which means that your mind gradually becomes whatever is the embodiment of the preponderant karma, the dominant karma in your continuum, in your mind stream. As you mentioned in your question, obviously we leave this flesh and blood body behind at death. And in fact, death is simply the separation of the mind from the body. The mind is immortal. It cannot die. There is nothing in the mind that could ever die. Which brings up the question, that you asked, well, how much of our habits and sense of identity you spoke of from this life goes with us? Our sense of identity consists of our experience of what are called three bodies. And these are not the three bodies of Buddhahood. These are three sort of funky, clunky bodies that we inhabit. The physical body that we gain through conception, gestation, and birth, and that then proceeds to die gradually, which we call growing up. That is called the fully ripened body because it is the form aggregate that results from a volitional action in the past. Every act, every karmic act, has several results. One of them is the most extreme is what's called the fully ripened result. And that means that every volitional action is a potential cause of an entire rebirth. And the physical body, the form aggregate that you gain as a result of that particular karmic imprint is called its fully ripened result, and therefore this flesh and blood body is called the fully ripened body because it's caused by the full ripening of karma. But we also inhabit two other bodies. The second is called the habitual body. And this is not a physical body. This is what we think we are. And that's why it is germane to your question. For example, when you're dreaming at night, you are obviously still usually within your physical body. So that hasn't been destroyed. You haven't been separated from it. But the person you are in the dream may be slightly different from that. You may dream that you're younger. You may dream that you're somebody else. You may dream that, you're different. There is a distinction between the body you appear to have in the dream and the actual physical body you have. And the dream body is called the habitual body because it is based, like the other contents of dreams, upon the habits that we have accrued. So therefore, it's a part of our identity. And there is a third body, and that's the body that we inhabit after death and before rebirth, and that's called the mental body. And the mental body is very similar to the habitual body in dream, but not exactly the same. And the difference is simply that when you're dreaming, you're not dead yet. You still have a physical body. So part of what's happening with the habitual body is your mind processing physical things, like what's going on in your digestive system, noises in the environment, and so on. Whereas in the Bardo, you're dead. You do not have a physical body. I mean, it's garbage now. It's been thrown out or ground up into dog food or whatever they do. So in the Bardo, you inhabit this mental body that has several attributes. The first thing is that it will appear, of course, it doesn't have any sense organs because it's not a physical thing, but it seems to you to have full sense organs. And it will look to you like the body you had in life. You will think, mostly in the Bardo, people don't even know they're dead for most of it. So you still think you're the same person that you were. You will have that sense of identity. You will have that and if you had an injury or illness that compromised your 5 sense organs, in the Bardo, your mental body will not be compromised in that way. So you will be able to see, hear, smell, I think taste, I'm not sure, very, very clearly. Also, your mental body will be able to do all kinds of things that you can't do now, like fly around, go to a place simply by thinking of it, and so on, which should make you suspicious. But like the dream state, you know how like in dreams we do all this like ridiculous stuff, and it's like we should know that we're dreaming. I mean, that just doesn't happen. But it takes quite a while for us to figure out, hey, that's impossible. You know, well, apparently it's like that in the Bardo too. You don't quite get it, that the reason why you think of some place and you find yourself there automatically is because you are nourished by smells, principally in the Bardo, which is why for Bardo beings we offer singed offerings. And you have a little bit of ESP, some kind of, well, you don't have senses, so any perception has got to be ESP. You have a little bit of supercognition. It's defiled. It's not 100%, but it's there. Now, the way that it's explained in the teachings on the Bardo, Rinpoche said, such as the Great Liberation Through Hearing in the Bardo, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, is that although you don't have a physical body, and therefore are in no danger whatsoever of it being destroyed, you still think that this mental body is a physical body, and you're terrified all the time because you encounter all these weird things. You know, you're flitting from one place to another without control, and you defend the physical body. You're very, very afraid that because you're used to having a physical body, so you defend that mental body. As the 49-day period continues, however, as you get to the end, you stop looking like, you stop perceiving yourself as you were in your preceding life. And you begin to perceive yourself more as something like what you will be in the next life. And how this works and how you feel about it, Rinpoche said, will depend upon what sort of rebirth you're heading for. Generally, if you're going to be reborn as in a higher state, like as a deva or god, then you will start to see things to do with the god realm. You'll start to experience yourself as a god or like a god, and you'll feel attachment. That primarily what pulls you in will be some kind of attachment to that type of existence. If you're going to be reborn in a lower realm, so like a hell realm, then you will start to experience hellish environments, hellish things, and hell bodies. They're awful. Like keshe gombu dawachi dua. Like ones that they're just like it's like a ball of goo that just splatters, and it's horrible. Anyway, you experience yourself as this kind of thing, and you hate it. And the intensity of your hatred for that is what pulls you into it. The point is, in any kind of rebirth, one or another klesha, depending upon the realm, is going to predominate. It doesn't sound right. It's going to be dominant, and that forms the proximate cause of being pulled into that realm. Now, of course, Rinpoche said, while this is going on, there are, as clearly stated in the Great Liberation Through Hearing in the Bardo, opportunities for liberation. The actual moment of death, the instant of death, is an opportunity to encounter the Dharmakaya. Immediately after that, before the mental body fully rearises and before there is full-blown delusion of the Bardo, there is an opportunity to be liberated in the Sambhogakaya. And then later in the Bardo, there is an opportunity to be liberated as a Nirmanakaya. But as we know from the fact that we're here, we didn't take advantage of those opportunities, at least last time.
Okay.
Quick question. Am I going to be going to a hell realm because I'm unable to work on Sonam's pantry?
Chinamba ge nange te tapsang chi la leka leju nangma direbe. Korange te shepchi shu matopa samje te ko nyalala chewa longerebes.
That's Mari.
Lasa.
Tell a kind of Mari.
Yeah.
There's Tom Yabori, Chusori, Chorana, Son of Yunguri,
Lasa.
Le Mato and Mato Bari, Koran, Luson, Mato, consequence kind of Mari.
No, there's no danger or consequences in this. There are only good consequences. If you're able to work on the pantry, Rinpoche says it's here, then of course it's a Dharma center, you're serving the Dharma, there's great merit. He says if you're unable to work on the pantry, there's no negative consequence or danger for you of that.
So I have a question back to Jeff's first question and your answer. And about how if we find shortcuts, then we're shortcutting the amount of merit we might accumulate. So I love shortcuts.
Anyone who knows you knows. Don't mean that in a bad way.
Everything I do is
Yeah.
about how can I do it quicker, more efficient, faster, less effort.
That's different.
And
Yeah.
but they're shortcuts.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
So and then I think we do that a lot because a lot of us have the little prayer wheels in the car that run on the solar and we don't even have to touch them.
Yeah, but they have that too.
I know they do.
Yeah, they mare, they kakare. Korange de pena de leka letong pu dakpo yena de zowa nyung de dogeres. De zowa nyung de dowa tsamje sona ma dribgeres. De ma dribgeres. De kakare. He says, you may be the prince of shortcuts, but he's the king. He says, I am the world's #1 shortcutter. No, efficiency is different from laziness.
Tonda Sengente Jacha Jantrop Govachi Yonaya, Tene Kona Masipata Bongon Swayana, Tene Chuso Mambo Tolan Nova, Huganava. They in the capsula, Tene Kona Sosi head up the tone, Tonda Kona Jacha Jantrop to sort the Hitam Mangova, Tene Chonayana, Rana Yangangi Choma. Tene longwa tunzi la ina para botela ya dosong chungwa chuzo chida gomara. Ya wu ngsanwa. Tera dubu kaya mar.
The difference is that the shortcut that you're talking about is a shortcut that leads to the same destination with less effort. So what you're talking about is a situation of where you have to finish 100% of a project. There are more than two, but for simplicity of discussion, there are two ways to do it. One way would involve more effort, therefore more expense, and take longer. By doing it that way, you would be delaying the achievement of the aim of the project. You would be subjecting yourself to additional hardship without a superior result and incurring a greater expense on the part of whoever is paying for all this. So there's nothing wrong with making a project take less time, less effort, and cost less money, because the completion is the same. So that's not laziness, that's efficiency.
Hi. So I can be uncomfortable a lot, and we were talking about bringing, having practice while being comfortable or uncomfortable.
Are you talking about mental discomfort or physical discomfort?
Mental discomfort.
okay.
So when I find comfort, I don't necessarily want to practice right away, or I just want to like relish in being comfortable for a moment. And I was wondering how to when you have pleasure without craving, also like how to bring that onto the path.
But does discomfort, you said that comfort doesn't make you want to practice right away, you want to relish the comfort.
Right.
Does discomfort make you want to practice right away?
It can, yeah.
Can, or it usually does?
Or do I just like relish in my discomfort also?
Okay. The dewa dan dunga ge kolare. The zamsa ngatso ge chen yamba dunga ge sowa de ngejong dan gewa ge kulma da wa chagi yoris. And samson de rang mandos. Samson de morang ge semla samson chipo yoris, samson dukpo yoris. Semla sowa dukpo yopa ge kapsa samson de ge chen jene dampechu drengidos. And samson de duk dak ne drengamaris. Sowa chipo jongwa kapsa nawa chipo da jongwa dosayana. Samson de chu drengamados de sowa chipo de la that's chakne ding on the nego samba yoris de dembares. Dona de dewa don dunga nika ke de sowa kan yena de lamda longwa kariko do.
Nga tanda chana sayata yung sikri, ta sipa konsang kawa de la yung masi basangita tenne tawa nini yung maris. Kari yina ya ta yung sikri. Damda jen nyambala tenne gyawa tupa yung gari. Damda jen nyambala tenne tando yina gyawa tupa matapa yung gari. Damda teksi tando chana sayata dewa teksi yobala tenne teksi tatila shenda wadi chane. Tani do matapa na wo yung gari. Damda yung gari. Yana ya ta so dabo te koran tsuyun ka te jingor songwa yina yang tene rinpe yendula je cha tsangma lu songwa dabo mayin ba je tu toban dabo je yina pena kalchen boris ngamo sedirimbo je song je dangi gom de jabe ke kap dabo je yina lamsan leka ni yung chik yamana kari hina chik chedebe kapla tene lakana la dee ne tega rangi nga la gom jamna tik sa chik sabu yunga madu song song
Lasa?
te sa chik kama nga jo chik tebon dabo chik so tene gom ki na tik si gom che tik si pache meba lam na dowan dabo pengen do sena song song ta te tawa hina te chananti madik pa madu
Well, what you describe is by no means impossible. In fact, we refer to samsara as possibility. A synonym for samsara is sipa or bhavana, which means possibility. And we call samsara possibility because just about anything is possible. So it is quite possible that sometimes pain will inspire us to practice, and at other times pain will not. Will have no upside whatsoever. It's also quite possible that sometimes pleasure will distract us from practice, but sometimes pleasure will inspire us to practice as well. That's quite possible. So none of this is impossible. The point in dealing with these sensations and your response to them is not to wait so long to return to practice that you forget about Dharma entirely. Now, your question reminded me, Rinpoche said, of a remark that Taisuthu Rinpoche made once when I was listening to him teach. He said that when we are busy, immersed in some kind of work, we should not rush straight from finishing work and jump into the shrine room in a big hurry and try to meditate right away. We should take a little bit of a break, a few minutes at least, in between to settle down. Otherwise, the transition, the abrupt or violent transition from the work to meditation will disturb us in the meditation. So I infer from his remark that there's nothing wrong with when you're feeling good and you want to just spend a little bit of time feeling good before you use that as a basis for practice. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't prolong it so long that you lose track of Dharma altogether.
Are we limiting questions to?
I don't think so.
Back from a while back on page 246. And it's basically a definition I need. In the middle of the big paragraph. Because he holds the source of all outer and inner pitakas without exception. He is the Lord of Dharma.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Pitaka? Denu chi nangi de ladruk ke jalwares. De chi da nangi denu ke malupa ke jongne zimpa ke dondo chuchi je songiores. Dona de ngonto Terchen gomba ngonto ke jalware doa. Dona chi da nangi denu kanla songiore. Denu chi denu son nang rikpasim beki denu yinsareko. Well, usually the outer and inner hair would probably refer to the sutra and tantra. So pitaka means a basket or a container. So we usually define the Buddha's teachings as the Tripitaka, the three baskets. It's actually Tripitaka, but it's hard to say. And so the basket or container of the Vinaya or discipline, the basket or container of the sutras or discourses, and the basket or container of the Abhidharma are the outer Pitakas, and then the inner would be the Tantras.
And on page 254, the discourse of the the last paragraph. So who wrote this and where? And
Who wrote
when?
what?
On page 254, the end, it describes who wrote.
Abu Karma Zongchu, that paragraph?
Yes.
It was written by Terchen Barway Dorje.
number 1.
No, the whole thing was. It's his commentary on his own Guru Sadhana, which he also wrote.
So where is Barwa Karma Tempa Tange Ling? Where is that?
Karma Tempa Taje Ling is Rockdale Monastery.
Okay,
Yeah, it had that's its official name.
okay.
The garden where the teachings of the Karmapa are spread to the limits of the earth.
So now I have 2 questions in this time. Dear Rinpoche, on page 104, the prayer says that distraction awakens awareness. Does that mean that one is aware of the awareness, or is it something beyond that where one is just experiencing pure awareness? If so, is the way to proceed to keeping experience that fresh moment when distraction and awareness, no, distraction awakens awareness? Thank you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the song the Dumbo Yang song the Yang song Ngoshena Ngoshe Baki Generic de Generic Somare song the generic Soma de Yulde Korang Yenam Yengwa Yenam Korang Dumbo the Yang songs Yang Yingamadu Namto Shagyoro. De toneang generic soma shagyores, and generic soma de la yul yorepes.
Ying song sambike hops kalan duhe sama yoro.
No.
Tengon jamaru.
It means that when you become aware that you have been distracted, that awareness itself is self-awareness. So the first there's the thought, oh, I was distracted, and then the awareness arises, which is the awareness, which is self-aware. You had a second one?
Yeah. Rinpoche, you mentioned that our contact with our teachers is the result of past aspirations and not accidental. I have the feeling that I have some kind of significant past life history with some of my Sangha sisters and brothers. Is it ever possible to know in this life what that past history is and why I feel it so deeply? Or does that kind of realization only come with enlightenment?
I guess they mean it in a good way, right? I hope so. The Rinpoche ke song song, chitong song ngatso ke zawe lama nampa ta jawa yapa de, tse ngoma ke malam che top da, letro yapa ke top ne, jongma re ma top ngone ke tewang ke ma re song song. Dena shindo dra po de ke tsonang la, ngone ke te tata ngatso ke gendun ke nane, te doje checham de tsola. Mixta ke jalwa sang amona yapa ke tsonang dos. Ina ngatso de jawa kan yapa de hakoju yorepe yana jangchu ma tochi balo de ham hako ma tobarebe.
Gendu gnan sen.
Gendun dona sosu ki chodrok de. Chodrok de tsola yang ma se ke jawa sapo yapa ke tsonang dos.
Tepe ya puri. Den den what malum.
Well, it's good that you feel that you have a strong or profound karmic connection with your Dharma sisters and brothers. That's fine.
Te kora ha gnan den ne tene go song ma to jege mugo san sung ma.
You're supposed to, especially in the Vajrayana tradition, to have a good and deep emotional bond with Vajra sisters and brothers is very important. You're not supposed to think of them as just, irrelevant strangers.
Yeah, correct.
Inside it. Well, if there are no other questions, then we will close.
Stand up.
Jeba nyamba meba da gone gonda bewa yo zimje damje de dan de jere je ngiro damje da zanjo zamba ganda zarjo de da ganje mola roba yo zanje Jargan de jadon de lengbai Saje me zoin reve sanga Jezige zonda jabe traye yo Zangara be maze dewo Ome awo be zangara be maze dewo Ome awo be zangara be maze dewo Ome awon bezengara 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 be maze dewo